Okay, I'm back again. I just watched a video clip from DA 13th Son, and at the end of the video clip, he said to love yourself, and it clicked. Well, I haven't done a video um, speaking and telling people how I learned to love myself. Because I'm sure there are different ways to um, find that part of yourself and actually learn to love you once again, or even for the first time for some people. But I just wanted to give a little snippet, or give you a little idea how I learned to love me. It first actually happened back in, it was, ooh, about 2 years ago. I learned to love myself. I was in my last year of college, and I'm an English major, so I read a lot, of course, had to write papers. And in my class that I was taking, the instructor gave us two texts to read. Of course, she gave us more than two, but two that really stuck with me was Henry David Thoreau and Emerson. Well, also Walt Whitman as well, Song of Myself, amongst other beautiful works of literature. And I don't want to leave out anyone, but there are hundreds, thousands. I don't want to leave out the African Americans either. However, to make a long story short, um, the text that I read was about, um, I believe it's Henry David Thoreau, and I, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but um, this individual made a cabin on the outside, outskirts of town, and decided to live in that cabin. I believe it was for, I know it was longer than either a year, or longer than a year, or around that bracket, or maybe even higher. But it wasn't like it was just 3 months or anything like that. While he lived there, he learned things about himself. He went back to nature. There was a pond right behind the little cabin that he lived in, and he spent a lot of his time in nature. And I decided to do the same thing. So, the town that I lived in at the time um, was very green. A lot of trees were around. It was wintertime actually around this time, so I can't say it looked exactly what people would call beautiful or not. Of course, the leaves were gone off of a lot of the trees, but then again, there was some evergreen trees that stayed with leaves, on all year round. So, I mean, what I decided to do was get back to nature. I walked by myself. I sung by myself. I talked to myself. I was with me for hours. I didn't even time how long I would spend next to a tree, just sitting there and listening to some music, or maybe just looking at my hand, or looking at my skin, looking at my fingernails, just spending time with nature one on one. Just me plus nature, and that's it. And I remember one specific evening, I was walking from an apartment complex, and there was this barren area. And it wasn't really barren as far as it didn't have anything there. It was barren as in there was no building or any type of architecture in that area. However, there were things left from, I'm guessing the city started a project but didn't end it. And it looked bad. It looked very bad. So I went to that area, cars passing by. It wasn't a sidewalk over there, so normally I would usually just pass by. I didn't go to that area often. I would just, look at it, go about my day, as a lot of people tend to do, is, not even care about nature sometimes. But then I sat there in nature, and I felt so horrible for how we treat the world and how we treat nature. I shed a tear right there. I cried. I cried, and I looked around. I touched a few leaves, a tree, and I cried. It was bad. It really hit me that a lot of people don't care. And when I noticed that they don't care about the earth, it's not so much as they don't care about the earth. They don't care about themselves. So when they just throw something down, it's a reflection of how they don't care about themselves. Because if they really did care about themselves, half of them probably wouldn't be eating processed foods anyway, to be just throwing it away like that. Now, I'll throw like a core of an apple out the window, or something like that. I'm just returning it back to its where it comes from. That was partially how I learned to find myself. A big part of me finding myself actually dealt with my hair. And I'm sure a lot of African American ladies out there can relate to me. I got tired of my hair one day. I remember, having a conversation with a friend and saying, I'm about to just cut it off. And they were looking at me like, girl, don't you do that. You be ugly. And I agreed. I was like, yeah, I'd be ugly. I know. I ain't going to cut my hair out. I ain't trying to be ugly. I had been so brainwashed to the point that I actually thought I needed a ponytail. And it needed to be straight, or at least hanging, in order for me to jog and look good, or in order for me to ride a bike and look good. And I really loved my bike. I really do. Her name is White Magnolia. I do love my bike. Anyway. Well, for whatever reason, I was under the assumption and believed that I needed to have hair on my head. And if I did not have hair on my head, I was an ugly being. So, after I thought about that, I said enough is enough. I don't need hair. So, big chop, cut it off. In fact, as soon as I came up with that notion, at the time I didn't have a car. I actually live about 2 miles away from some friends at the time, and I walked 2 miles. And I went, it was on the afternoon, I even passed by some people, I'm waving, they're like, well, you look, you're in a hurry, and I'm like, I'm about to cut my hair. And they're like, no, don't do that. So I went down to their house, I got those clippers, I said, where the clippers at? They were like, in the bathroom, what are you about to do? I cut my hair. I literally watched in the mirror as I zoom, zoom, zoom. And people were like, oh my gosh, she's going crazy. She's going crazy. And I'm just, in my head, it's like, why is this such a big deal? This is me. This is my hair. And I'm cutting it. I'm getting rid of it. Why should you be feeling the way you feel? Because last time I checked, this one was mine and yours is yours. Yours is still there. You don't have to worry. This is me, right? No. My mother saw me a few days later and she asked me if I was on crack. And her reaction just, I didn't say anything. I just looked at her because she was speaking to me from this direction. So I just looked at her first. And then I just looked forward. I had nothing to say from that point. It's amazing how people have so much to say about someone else, yet they don't have so much to say about themselves. I mean, it even goes to a little bit of negativity too. I will blatantly say, hey, I was wrong for that. If in fact I believe I was wrong for that, of course. But at the same time, I try to evaluate any situation from both perspectives, and I try to see from a different lens. But yeah, I cut my hair. I took a part in that. I cut my hair. I looked in the mirror the next morning and I said, oh my God, what did I do? And then I looked and I had to eventually accept the fact that I did it and work with it. At first I told myself I'm just going to let it grow back immediately, but that would not solve the problem. At the time, not that I thought that I was ugly, it was more so I didn't know, I couldn't recognize that person in the mirror. And more than that, I had people, I guess I let a few people talk to me a little too much. People coming up to me, are you a dyke? Like, I just cut my hair. Why does my sexuality have to change all of a sudden just because I cut my hair? It was funny to me for the most part. So for that whole year, actually, I continued to cut my hair. I did all kinds of styles. What? I had me a little fade in the back. I got it a little bit on the top. And then, faded out on the sides. I did my thing for an entire year. In fact, December 29th, I believe, was my last time cutting my hair in the year of 2013. That was the last time I cut my hair. I mean, now it's grown and now I'm doing something a little different. I'm definitely not going back to chemicals, but I had to learn to love myself in that mirror that day. And from there on out, actually, because then people would look at me so funny. So the looks I got were just garbage. You would have thought I was an alien or something. The looks I got and the remarks from the people that I thought loved me. It's like it was a time and a place where I realized apparently they didn't even know me. So when I cut my hair, it was like, okay, now I see how people act, how people really feel. Apparently, if I don't have hair, I am not like them anymore. I am different. I am some weird being. And I've always been weird, don't get me wrong, and I've always embraced that about myself. But just because I cut my hair does not make me any weirder. I mean, you may not understand it, but at the same time, that's how I had to learn to love me. I was sure, and I'm glad I did that. If I cut my hair and was the ugliest that I could be to myself and learn to look in the mirror and see me for the inside and see that I was still beautiful without whatever was on my head, then I could truly love myself, because I had to deal with that for a year. Even after I would get my little styles, people still said it. You know what? Actually, last week I went to a friend's baby shower, and the last time one of her girlfriends had seen me, I didn't have any hair, and she said, "Oh, I like you better with hair." And I said, "Thank you." But I was like, why am I saying thank you? I did that for a reason. I'm glad I did that, and this is the one life I have. Why not cut my hair if I feel like it? It's mine. Why not use that as an experience to learn to get to know me with all of the negative comments from other people that come along? That's when you really know other people, or know their intentions, or how they really feel about you. And then from there you can really evaluate yourself, because you get to see those comments or listen to those comments and then ask yourself, how do I feel about that? And you get to learn the truth about you. And that's how I learned to love myself. So if anyone else has done the same thing or are thinking about doing the same thing, more power to you. And spread the word. It's not rocket science. Peace and blessings.